Welcome to Wandering Grey Bruce. Today we ventured up past Wyerton through Purple Valley, and we're here at the Bird's Nest Garden Farms to visit with Peter Allemang. Thank you for letting us stop in.
Nice to have you, Krista.
Yeah, this is a great spot. It really intrigued me when I was kind of researching some spots on the Rural Garden Farm Tour, and that's a spot that you can look up on the website. There's a lot of interesting places that you can come across, and this one is really neat because you live off the grid as well as this garden farming that you're doing. So where did the idea come that you wanted to live off the grid? Like how did that all come about?
Well, we were both city kids, and we both realized through different life experiences that we didn't want to live long-term in the city. We loved the Bruce Peninsula. We liked hiking on the Bruce Trail.
Right, yeah.
And it's kind of a story of divine intervention about how we ended up here, but we knew we wanted to build something that was environmentally friendly. We'd read a little bit that the environmentally friendly building industry was more in its infancy back then.
Yes.
There wasn't as much known. I mean, I had to research this stuff at a library.
Yeah, okay.
Not with the internet so much.
Yeah.
So one of the techniques we researched was some of this crazy stuff here. Post and beam and straw bale building was very much in its infancy then. We have some of that cordwood construction, cordwood masonry with mortar and wood put together. Our house is a little bit of that as well. So we kind of mushed some systems together, the earth roof, just because they kind of made sense to us.
Right.
I didn't quite intellectually understand all the steps and processes of a conventional house as much back then. This seemed much more doable. It turned out to be a lot more work. But it seemed environmentally friendly for sure. You can identify, oh, that's wood, we know where that comes from. Oh, that's earth, we know where that comes from, as opposed to things that come from far away and you don't know where they come from. So we kind of went down that path and there was no going back.
Once you started,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So your lifestyle will be different than mine. I get to use a remote to turn the television on. You have a television, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we get to use the remote to turn on the television also, as long as there's enough power to operate the television.
Right.
So this morning, when the power was a bit low, because our batteries are getting older, and it was a dark morning, my daughter had to sashay out to the generator to turn it on so that there was enough power to initiate the water pump to have a shower.
Okay.
Now, lots of mornings, she doesn't have to do that. And when the batteries, like myself, were younger and had more energy, she didn't have to do that. But that's part of the game.
Right. So you have a generator backup?
Yeah.
For your system?
Yeah.
And then everything runs off of probably a row of batteries?
Yeah.
Like you can explain, because
Yep. So we get most of our power from solar panels.
Right.
And a little bit from the wind turbine there, depending on the time of year or the day. Today we're getting lots more from the wind turbine, windy day. They feed the battery bank, and the battery bank pulses the electricity to the house when it senses that somebody's flipped on a light or turned on the oven or the fridge needs to keep things cool.
Right, okay.
And we have to work within those parameters. We can't have an electrically powered oven. We can't have an electrically powered freezer. So we have a propane freezer, propane hot water, propane cook stove.
Oh, okay.
So we do depend on propane more than some people, for sure.
Right. So you would have your heat then would be backup propane?
It could be if we had a backup propane heater, but we just use passive solar from the sun and firewood in the winter.
Right, okay. So then your house will be designed, so I'm going to guess your wood stove's probably in the basement?
Yep, in the middle in the basement. Yep, beautiful draft. Whoop. We got people power to get the wood from here to in there and in the wood stove, and up she goes. It's a bit of a special unit, but essentially it's tree powered heat in the winter.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and a fair bit of insulation. The wall's very thick. Behind the yellow plaster you see, there's straw bales, and they're about 18 inches thick, so that's quite good insulation. The roof has pretty decent insulation. The house is nestled into the earth a little bit on the back half, the north half, so that keeps it cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter.
In the winter. Now, I gotta take you back a couple of steps. So you've got straw for insulation.
Yep, behind the yellow plaster.
Behind the yellow plaster.
On the upper floor. Yeah.
So then you've got, so it's what we see, plaster, and then probably 2x4s or 2x10s, whatever, but straw, still in its bale, or you took it apart?
Yeah.
Still in its bale?
Yeah, still in bales, connected with baling twine. And plastered over with a natural plaster.
On the other side.
Plaster.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. When we were designing it, there really weren't many straw bale structures in Ontario, and certainly none that were sort of as tall as ours. And I was nervous about trying too much of it.
Right.
So we started with the wood and masonry on the bottom story, but that took a lot of time and a lot of work. And so partway through, we sort of switched to straw bale because we liked the look, and we go in a little faster.
Right.
I think it's a good match.
Very good.
Yeah.
Wow. And then it's round. Why? Why is it round?
One of the teachers I had a similar round home, and I took a course there. One of the theories is, especially for a labor-intensive process, circles are very space efficient. You have a maximum internal area for perimeter area, so less wall for more inside, which is one reason.
Okay.
It's very wind firm, of course, and we do get a fair bit of wind here. It looks cool and funky, and we, kind of like that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Then the living roof, because now is an in thing. I know that was a big push about 5 years ago, but you were thinking ahead of the time.
Yeah.
You decided to have a living roof, and why?
Yeah, one of the homes I worked at in New York State, he had a living room roof as well. When I was younger, like 12 years old, I remember doing shingles with my dad on my roof, and that made no sense to me at all. It was heavy and stinky, and what happens with the shingles when they're done?
Exactly.
Into the landfill.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah, our roof has got some definite environmental pluses. It's sometimes a bird habitat. So that's the way we went. And so far, so good.
So far, so good. So there's no upkeep to that. You just planted Timothy or clover, or I'm not sure what's up there.
Mostly just native species.
Native
that were here
species?
already.
Oh, okay.
We just took soil from the excavation hole, essentially put it on the roof with an excavator bucket. The first summer we put a hose with a thumb on to water it once, water the seeds, and
wow, very
and
good.
my wife is telling me something, but I'm not sure what she's saying. Oh yeah, well, we seeded it too.
Right.
If you've seen a new highway construction with huge cutoff sections, road cutoffs, and they spray that weird green stuff over it.
Yeah.
It's called hydro-seeding.
Yeah.
And so we hydro-seeded our roof. Definitely the first hydro-seeded roof the local guy had ever done.
Oh my goodness, which would be very interesting. Yeah.
So it kept the seeds protected and moist until they had a chance to germinate.
Right.
Yeah.
So then underneath the soil will be
many layers of different things: insulation and rubber and wood and.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that acts as your insulation then, or do you have you'll have something in the ceiling of your home?
Yeah. Above our wooden ceiling, we have kind of normal styrofoam insulation before another rubber type layer and waterproofing and the soil and the seeds and whatever else drops from the sky. We haven't yet had to take any trees out of the roof. So far, so good.
So yeah, because usually birds, being the best seeders out there, right? Because that's what they do. You would, I could see them perched on that top layer and kind of chewing a wild grape seed and spitting it out, and you would have tons of wild grapes up there, but you don't.
No wild grapes. I do go up once or twice a year just to snoop, and so far, nothing that perennial. Now, the soil isn't that deep either. It's only 5 or 6 inches, so we're not going to get a redwood up there.
No, okay.
It wouldn't last for very long anyway.
Well, you do see people that have trees growing out of their eaves troughs that don't clean out their eaves troughs very well. So, I'm surprised that you don't have little cedar seedlings growing up there or something. But maybe it dries out enough that it's just not the perfect habitat for it.
Well, and it's also because we put one of our lambs up there once a year. Actually, we haven't done that yet.
No,
but I'm thinking about it.
But that, you could tie them to a cement block and
Well, once I
set
get
them
a
up there.
perimeter safety fence up there,
that would be.
There's a lamb that's going to be.
That
we'll have
would
an
be
annual
good.
party. The roofing of the lamb.
Roofing of
ritual.
the lamb would be good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. One of the things that maybe city people aren't aware of, I live in the country, but when the hydro goes out in town, you can still flush your toilets and you still have access to water. But when you live in the country and the hydro goes out, there's called a no flush policy at my home, and you have to wait until the hydro comes back on because your tank can't fill up to flush that toilet, right? So here, you don't have to worry about that, but you're probably a water-wise user.
A little bit, for sure. Yeah, we're installing more and more water harvesting systems coming off the roofs and such. I mean, last year we had a near drought, and our vegetables definitely suffered.
Yeah.
Before this rain today, I had just run out of water to water my animals. In their mobile trailers, they have little water collection systems.
Right.
In fact, I loaded up my tractor bucket this morning with water from the hose, and I trundled it out to the animal trailers and started gently pouring it into the roof to collect it, the animal trailer water collection system.
Right.
And right then the heavens opened and I just got poured on.
That's usually the way it works, right? Yeah, you wait and wait and wait, and then it does finally come. Yeah. So you definitely depend a lot on Mother Nature to survive here.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes when folks in town lose their hydro, we don't know.
No, you wouldn't know. And actually, ironically, when we were coming through Purple Valley, there was an Ontario Hydro truck, and a fellow had the huge long fiberglass pulleys trying to put the switch back up. So there probably was a hydro outage here somewhere, or they were working on hydro.
Yeah, initially we put in the off-grid system partly for philosophical reasons, and partly just we did the math. It was going to be really expensive.
Yeah.
But, other folks don't know when we lose our power either. You got to pay your money up front.
Right.
The wind turbine goes into fireworks mode, or it's cloudy for 4 days straight in the winter.
Then you've got problems. Yeah. Wow, interesting. Well, we'll be right back. Stay tuned, and we're going to learn more about this type of living.
You know the story, when the RCAF said Mach 2 fighter, 2-place 1,000-mile range, the British said it was impossible. The Yanks tried twice and failed. They said, you're dreaming. We said, fine, we'll build it right here in Toronto. And now you guys, my guys, are saying that it can't be done, that they were right?
Now that's the rocket that we used to get the model up to speed, and then the onboard sensors tell us that...
Come on, baby.
Damn it! But we did it according to your specs. The specs have changed.
We did it.
Arrow 201. You're cleared for takeoff.
We did it!
Although the government cancelled the project and destroyed the prototypes, the Avro Arrow remains for Canada a world benchmark in aerospace achievement.
Are you the type who would keep going or stop? It's not easy to stop when you have an addiction. Legalizing cannabis won't stop addiction. It trivializes its consumption. Let's be vigilant. If you need help, visit portage.ca.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking. Join Mary Jane Murray as she interviews Dwight Burley, mayor of Georgian Bluffs, right here on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Wandering Grey Bruce. We've moved from the house off the grid, and we're now checking out Peter's backyard. Amazing what you've got going on back here. You were first talking about water in our first segment, and how you were loading up the front of the tractor, the loader with the buckets. So explain what's behind us here. I'm absolutely in awe of it's a train, but it's an animal train. It's kind of like Noah's Ark on wheels, in a sense. So it's kind of cool. So explain what you have built here behind us.
Well, Krista, it's interesting you brought up Noah's Ark, because Noah was trying to sort of preserve biology, and that's what we're doing here too. On the peninsula, the soil is so thin, the bedrock's so close, the field conditions can be so tough. We wanted to rehabilitate, regenerate the soil as best we could, and the more we read, the more we studied, the more we realized that's very doable with animals if you manage them properly. So we love the fact on the peninsula that we have all the wildlife, all the wild animals. That's awkward when it comes to keeping domesticated animals alive.
It is, yes.
So we needed a system that could build up the soil and keep the animals safe. So the mesh fence here keeps the animals safe because it's electrified. It's on at night. It's movable, so they're not in one spot for too long to beat down the soil and beat down the plants beyond the point of recovery. So they'll be here for a little while. The sheep, the chickens, they'll be pooing, they'll be peeing, they'll be eating, they'll be getting nourished, but then they get out of here and let the soil and the plants recover. And they get fresh stuff elsewhere. In the meantime, they're mimicking a herd, which is a good animal health thing and good for the final product, the eggs or the lamb.
Right. I noticed you've got the chickens and the sheep together, so that seems to be a good marriage happening here along the fence because the hens like the bugs.
Yep. The hens like the bugs that the sheep might bring. The sheep like the hens trailer because it provides them with shade.
Oh yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah,
yep.
Exactly.
Both of the structures collect water, and they have water barrels attached. And there's a little drinker water. It's like a drinking fountain for the chickens under the left-hand trailer, and the sheep they have a reservoir as well that feeds just a regular bucket. So both of those structures collect water when we have water. We ran out of water, so this morning I had to go out with a tractor bucket full of water. But usually that doesn't happen. But every few days we'll hook up the tractor to the animal choo-choo train, put to a new place on the pasture.
Right. Now that would probably take more than just yourself to do that because you've got a lot of fence together. Or I'm assuming you probably put them all in the trailers and then move everything around and set it up.
Yeah, it depends. Usually I want the chickens in the trailer in the morning.
Right.
Sometimes it's easier just to have the sheep not in a trailer, so I'll make a fence pathway to the new pasture, the new paddock. But when I do need help, my wife Erin or my daughter Talia will make sure the lambs in the trailer are keeping pace with the tractor. Nobody's getting trampled or tardy.
Right.
We don't want any accidents. We haven't had any in 2 years with the sheep, and we don't want any.
Oh, good. You haven't had any escapees?
We've had a few minor escape incidents.
Yes.
Nothing major yet.
Yep.
The fence is really a psychological barrier. We're working to put a physical perimeter fence barrier, but we don't have that yet. So they do respect the fence in general.
And you're able to keep the battery charged up enough with the system you have at the house?
Yeah, well, we have a little solar power battery. So there's a little cart over there with a little solar power battery, and that keeps the fence charged. So far, it's kept the bears away, and the coons away, and the coyotes away, and the wild dogs away. So
so
far, everybody's pretty happy most of the time.
Most of the time, that's good.
Yeah.
And I notice here you have a market garden.
Yes, my wife runs Polka Dot Hen Produce, polkadothenproduce.com, and she's got some produce she grows in our different locations. She sells at the Wyerton Farmers Market on Friday afternoons, and of course we get to eat a lot of that as well. So a lot of stuff here we were going to do anyway.
Right.
And we can produce just a little bit more with the same systems and sell some of it. So neighbors get some eggs. Community people get some produce. Sometimes people come for tours to get some ideas.
Oh, I definitely would be a spot to come, and you are on the Rural Gardens tour, but just in the afternoons, I believe, or you tell me so I don't say it wrong.
This summer it was Rural Gardens of Grey Bruce, Saturday and Tuesday, Tuesdays by appointment. But we kind of rejig that every year. So next year we might be open more regularly or without appointments. But each each section on the Rural Gardens of Grey Bruce website has a write-up on what the garden is and what the hours are and what to expect when you arrive.
Yeah, very good. I'm intrigued with the amount of produce that your wife is growing here. She's got a wonderful greenhouse here, and I can just visually see in underneath the opening for the air to allow through your greenhouse, because I guess you don't want it to be too toasty in there and dry everything out. But yes, the tomatoes, the different variety of tomatoes looks delicious, along with, I think you've got some kale and some lettuce and lots of stuff in there. And of course it's in there, it could be protected from the sheep, because if one went astray, you certainly wouldn't want them getting into the greenhouse. That would be devastating for your year's worth of produce, because I'm assuming you freeze a lot of this as well and live off of it in the wintertime, like the rest of us do when we garden.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we still have a few stores left from last summer's production, but we're getting low, so it's time to start restocking for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. Yes. Did you want to add something, Aaron? No? No? What other animals do you have here on the farm, or is this keeps you busy enough?
Yeah, this is a part-time job for me in the summer, just managing this assembly. But we have a dog, and she does a good job leaving her scent and telling us when there's raccoons creeping onto the porch to eat the grapes, or foxes sneaking around, or bears in the neighborhood, or wild dogs. She does a really fantastic job. It's not an animal to be overlooked on a homestead for sure. Right,
right. And you're probably busy enough with your gardens as well, other than vegetable. You have tons of flower beds here as well that people can kind of meander around through, and everything is in flower right now. It looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah. August is a nice time of year for all the colorful blooms, and we get more and more every year. There's sunflowers happening, which we didn't even plant. We had a plan to plant sunflowers this year. We never got around to it, but the chicken feed that had sunflowers in it, the chickens didn't eat, well, now we've got sunflowers anyway. We are intensively planting some more unusual plants. There's some southern plants that we're planting, southern trees, pushing the envelope, seeing what we can get away with that the animals will get to eat from in years to come as the system matures. Yeah. Because
you do kind of have a little ecosystem here, because you're really nicely surrounded by maple and I think poplar?
Yep.
So does that help with less abrasive winters, I guess?
Yeah, and summers too. It gives the animals shade. Our animal paddocks, a lot of them feature some of the hedgerows, and now we're intentionally planting hedgerows for them to use in the future, which mimic savanna ecosystems. We're trying to make domestic agriculture imitate wild ecosystems, but we get a product out of it, and they're happy out of it, and
definitely
more carbon sequestered and all those good things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm interested to have a peek through the flower beds. I can see that you've got tons of now that it has a purple cone flower. That's what I see peeking and waving in the wind here today. But I also noticed that it almost looks like a dill plant that you've got there. Is it some type of
dills? There's a lot of prairie plants, because Erin is from the Midwest and she loves her prairie plants, and those are good at making more fertility in the soil and attracting pollinators and making birds happy. So the more variety, the more happy everything is. We're trying to get away from one product agricultural production as much as we can on our scale.
Right. And I also noticed you've got lots of, it looks like grapevines around the house, and we kind of talked about that in our first segment, but they must be, are they a special type of grape, or is it a wild?
They are cold hardy grapes. One of the two is seedless. But we're trying to take advantage of little microclimates around the site. So where we've got the grapes, they've got the house sheltering them from the cold north winter winds, and they're facing south, and they're next to that mortar, which soaks up the heat and gives it to the grapes at night, keeps them warm and happy. So everywhere we can kind of tweak and use a microclimate, we're doing that.
We're doing that, yeah. It's an absolutely fascinating piece of property. The windmills flying at 100 miles an hour, which will be charging your batteries.
Yep.
You have another unique building, and it looks as if you've got like a moss roof on that. Is that where all your batteries and everything is?
Yeah, so we've got about 4 different earth green roofs, and each one has a different tweak, and we call it our power shed. And for the power shed, I tried to see how little money I could invest and still have something you could call a green roof.
Right,
so,
right.
We didn't put a whole bunch of soil on there, just a little bit. And some of the sedums and water thrifty plants have taken hold, and we just chuck up excess garden clippings and anything to protect the earth, the membrane, the rubber membrane under the earth.
Right.
And it looks kind of ragged and fun, and it's worked well so far.
It does. It looks fabulous. So if people wanted to learn more about your farm here, what is your webpage address?
polkadothandproduce.com is our current go-to website for more information.
Okay.
And again, the Rural Gardens of Grey Bruce website has a link to us and many other awesome gardens. And it has their phone numbers and email and everything on there.
Wonderful. So if they wanted to come and have a tour, they could check in with you and figure out a good time to come and check out this spot.
Yep. Bird's Nest at bmts.com. The tour season is winding down a little bit for this year, but 2020 we should be in full swing again and have a lot of openings.
Very good. Okay, well thank you very much, Peter and Aaron, for letting us be here on your farm, and we'll see you again next time on Wandering Grey Bruce.